Hare Krishna, dear devotees. We thank you all for being here today. We are blessed. We have His Grace, SALIKA PRABHU, who will be speaking to us. Of course, SALIKA PRABHU needs no introduction. Everybody knows him. He is our host and administrator of this platform. Prabhuji, may you speak so we check to see if your microphone is working all right? The microphone.
Hare Krishna.
Okay, that's good. But your video is turned off. We can't see you.
I'm working on it. I don't know what's happening to it today. Can you see me?
Yeah, it's not clear.
Yeah, I don't know what happens to my video today. So I'm just working on that in the background. Okay, we can start, and then
All right.
let's hope it gets better as we go.
Of course, yes, we're going to do that. So we'll put the verse on the screen and then you may start.
Okay. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavati Vasudevaya. Narayana Namaskritam Nairaichaivam Naruttamam Devi Saraswati Vyasam Tatu Jayam Viraye Nasta Praisu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatam Sevaya Bhagavati Uttamansloke Bhakti Bhavati Naistiki. Reading from SRIMAD Bhagavatam, 2nd Canto, chapter 5. We're reading from text number 20. And the verse says, goes, Saesha Bhagavalingesh, Tribi Etai Adakshaja, Swalakshita Gatim Brahma, Sarvesham Mama Shasvatra. Saesha Bhagavalingesh, Tribi Etai Adakshaja, Swalakshita Gati Brahma, Sarvesham Mama Sheswara. Saisha Bhagavat Lingas Tribi Etai Adokshaja Swalakshita Gatri Brahma Sarvesham Mama Sheswara. Word for word translation. Sahi Eshaha, this Bhagavan, the personality of Godhead. Lingai, by the symptoms. Tribi, by the tree. Etai, by all this. Adokshaja, the superseer transcendence. Su Alaksita, veritably unseen. Garthi, movement. Brahma, O Narada. Salvation of everyone. Mama, mine. Cha, as also. Ishwara, the controller. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Labai Charana Vindesi Bhakti Vedanta Swami Patapavanja Prabhupada. O Brahman and Narada, the superseer, the transcendental Lord, is beyond the perception of the material senses of the living entities. Because of the above-mentioned three modes of nature, but He is the controller of everyone, including me. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. In the Bhagavad Gita 7:24-25, the Lord has declared very clearly that the impersonalists who give more importance to the transcendental rays of the Lord as Brahma duty, and who concludes that the absolute truth is ultimately impersonal and only manifests a form at a time of necessity, is less intelligent than the personalist. However, much the impersonalists may be engaged in studying the Vedanta, The fact is that such impersonalists are covered by the above mentioned three modes of material nature. Therefore, they are unable to approach the transcendental personality of the Lord. The Lord is not approachable by everyone because he is contained by his Yoga Maya potency. But one should not wrongly conclude that the Lord was formerly unmanifested and has now manifested himself in the human form. This misconception of the formlessness of the Supreme Personality of Godhead is due to the Yoga Maya, curtain of the Lord, and can be removed only by the Supreme Will. As soon as the conditioned soul surrenders unto him, the devotees of the Lord who are transcendental to the above mentioned three modes of material nature can see the all blissful transcendental form of the Lord with their vision of love in the attitude of pure devotional service. Om Agyanam Timirandasya Gyanam Gyanam Shalakaya Shakshu Militam Jena Tasma Shri Gurave Sri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupam Padamayam Dadati Swam Padantikam Vandyam Sri Guru Sri Yuta Pada Kamalam Sri Guru Vaishnavam Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganam Ragunatam Sahajivam Sadvitam Savadutam Parijanam Saitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Sri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Sri Vishakavitam. He Krishna Karuna Shindu Dina Bandhu Jagapati Gopisha Gopika Kantara Dakata Taptakan Chanagurange Radevin Davaneshwari Vishabhanu Shitidevi Pranamami Nariviye Mukankaruti Vachalam Pangem Lagayati Girim Yatkripata Vande Shri Guru Natarina Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadada Vashadi Gora Bhakta Vindan Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So again, we're reading from SRIMAD Bhagavatam 2nd Canto chapter 5, text number 20, which says, Sa Esha Bhagavan Linges, Dibri Etai Adokshaja, Swalaksita Geti Brahma Sarvesham Mama Sheswara. O Brahmana Narada, the superseer, the transcendental Lord, is beyond the perception of the material senses of the living entities because of the above mentioned three modes of nature. But he is the controller of everyone, including me. Hare Krishna. So again, we welcome each and every one of us to this beautiful moment, the perfection of human existence, which is the opportunity to hear and talk about the transcendental pastimes, activities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And this is confirmed by the Supreme Personality of Godhead himself in the Bhagavad Gita, that one who understands the transcendental nature of my appearance and activities, he will never take birth again. The greatest challenge of every living entity is that we're all struggling to attain deathlessness. So here in Bhagavatam gives, or it awards us deathlessness. So it is the most beautiful moment in the existence of human life. So, but before we start to speak on this verse of today, we once again want to offer a respectful obeisance to all the Vaishnava devotees who are assembled here by whose mercy we are given the opportunity to render this service. We offer our respect to our predecessors, our dear spiritual master, Bhakti Tita Swami Krishna Pad, to his confounder, Acharya Srila Prabhupada, and to all of the Parampara Acharyas, and to the Supreme Personality of God, Krishna. So today we are having the continuation of discussion between the teacher and the student, the father and the son, the Brahma and his son, Narada. And this is going to give us an insight into the whole of what human life is meant to be. So in the course of this class, we'll be talking about what is the impetus? Why do one ask a question? What leads someone to ask a question? And what is the symptoms of a questionnaire? What is the right way to ask? What is the right question to ask? And what is supposed to be the mood of the questionnaire? And ultimately, how does this relate to freeing us from the conditional state of human existence? In the material world, Lord Krishna said beautifully in the Bhagavad Gita, from the highest living entities to the lowest, the greatest symptom of everyone that is born into this material world is that his condition is delusion. From the highest living entity, from Brahma himself to the lowest living entity. So Lord Krishna said in Bhagavad Gita, Ishadvisha sabhute nas dandva mohena bharata sarva bhutani samoham sarge yanti parantapa. Bhagavad Gita chapter 7, number 27. Lord Krishna told Arjuna that, O conqueror of the foe, all living entities are born into delusion, bewildered by dualities, arising from desires and hate. So it is not surprising that we see that everyone in the material world is in a kind of a confused situation, because this is the verdict of the Supreme Personality of God, that whoever takes birth in this material world is in the delusion. No one is in this material world except the Lord and his pure devotees who came to this world on an errand from the Supreme Personality of God. Everyone is delusion. So therefore, it is important, it is natural that everyone wants to ask some questions. So the fact that we are all illusion is not something new. And that is the test of the next 4 or 5 verses that we're going to be reading from the last verse we read yesterday, where Lord Brahma is talking about the influence of the 3 modes of material nature. The material living entities born into this delusion of material life are all illusion. But why are they illusioned? Why do living entities are illusioned in the material world? The SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM 4th Canto, chapter 29, text number 4, gives us an insight into this cause of the illusion of the delusion of the living entities who are born. Lord Krishna has told us that the living entities are born into delusion. But in that verse of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM 4th Canto, chapter 29, text number 4, Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna that reason why we are born into delusion, the cause of our delusionment is given in that statement of the Bhagavatam. And what did Bhagavatam says? It says, Yada jigrasan purusha karisyena prakrite guna nava dwaran dvi astangrihi tatramanuta sadvif iti. That when the living entity wants to enjoy the most of material nature in their totality, it prefers out of many bodily forms to accept that body which has 9 gates, 2 arms and 2 legs. Thus, it prefers to become a human being or a demigod. In other words, the living entity falls into this conditional state of existence as a result of desire to enjoy, as confirming the statement of Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, We all are in this conditional state of life as a result of desire to enjoy. When the living entity desires to enjoy, outside of the arrangement of the Supreme Personality of God, it is not unnatural for the living entity to want to enjoy. Why? Because the living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Lord Brahma stated in invocation of the Brahma Samhita, Ishwara Parama Krishna Sakchidananda Vrigraha, Anadyadi Govindam Sarva Karanam Karanam. And Lord Krishna himself said in the Bhagavad Gita, Mama Vam So Jiva Luke Jiva Bhuta Samatana, the living entity are part and parcel of me. And because the living entity, Krishna is eternal, is blissful, and is full of knowledge, the living entity has these symptoms or characteristics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in a minute degree. So it is not unnatural. Ananda Mayo Biasat. So it's not unnatural for the living entity wanting to enjoy. But when it tries to enjoy the creation of the Lord, outside of the Lord, then it falls into this delusion of material existence. And that is the statement of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. And for one who finds himself or herself in a delusion situation, and that is why it is said that there are two types of human beings, the wise and the unwise persons. The foolish person does not ask questions, but the symptoms of a person who is wise is that immediately when he finds himself in a confused situation, in something that is bewildering, just like Narada here. Narada Muni, just like any other person, was construing based on his perception that Lord Brahma, my father, is the Supreme Personality, is the origin of everything. Everything, just like every child when he's born, he sees his father as the strongest. He sees his father as the richest. He sees his father as the hero. No one can convince a young lad that his father is not everything. So Narada Muni was in the same situation. He was thinking, but as he grows, he came to realize that if my father is worshiping someone, that means that person must be superior to him. And because he's an intelligent person, immediately he asks questions. A foolish person will never ask questions. And that is why it is said that in the material world, there are two symptoms of those who have come into this material delusionment of material existence. There are two symptoms: fear and hope. In the first verse we quoted, that is why Lord Krishna himself says, Icha Duisha, act of desire. The living entity in the material world, once it comes under the influence of the three modes of material nature, which is the governing manager of this universe, immediately it develops either of the two sentiments or emotions that rules this world. In the whole of this existence, when you carefully, analytically study every human being's activities, it is rooted under these two emotional symptoms. For those who are religious-minded, for those who are demons, they are not considered in any way. But for those who are in this material world, primary mood that permeates every one of them is fear and hope. Those who are fearful, those who are ungodly, they manifest the mood of a fear. They're always afraid. And you see that 99.9% of the living entities in this material world is acting everything it does. A child is born so that it doesn't fall sick. He is covered with clothes. So that he doesn't become a non-entity out of fear of becoming a non-entity. He is sent to the school, even when he does not know what is to be done or what is to be done. Out of fear, he goes to work so that he can he can make money so that he will not go hungry. Every activities of an ungodly person is rooted in fear. When you analytically study carefully, every human endeavor in this material world is rooted in fear.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, I'm sorry to interrupt. You're speaking so beautifully, it's flowing. But if you can remember what you just said, that the living entity is suffering because our suffering is rooted in fear. If you can remember that, and you take just a minute to try and fix your camera so we can see you, because we're seeing like shadows.
I don't know why the camera is like this today.
So please fix that. We'll give you like a minute to do that, and then we'll get you back. Hare Krishna, please.
Okay. I think what I'll do is I'll log out and come back in. Give me a minute.
All right, you may do that.
Chaitanya Devata Vande Gauranga Sundara Sachinandan Mamatahe Yati Chudamane Prabhu.
Whether it's as a result of Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, I don't know what's happening today. Sometimes
it's still not clear, but well, we're
I think we'll have to go on some. I don't know whatever exactly happens today. I noticed that when I logged in initially.
All right, so you may speak.
So anyway, back to our discussion. So I was saying that every living entity in this material world engages in activity as a result of fear. When you analytically looked at every activities that every living entity does in this material world, it's rooted in this fear of the fact that, just a minute. Is it better now? Can you see me clearly?
Yes. Much better.
Then. Okay, yes. Now, so we'll go out this way. So everyone acts based on fear. Even the BHAGAVATAM says that even the demigods, out of fear, they engage in activities. But higher than these general types of living entities are those who are religious. And the religious persons, instead of acting under fear, they endeavor in activities based on hope. And what is this hope that they engage in? What is the symptoms of these hopeful people who are religious-minded persons? These religious-minded persons are cut across all strata of religion. There are those people who seemingly, when we talk about general kind of people, it does not mean that they do not go to church or mosque or temple. But among those millions and billions of living entities, few of them have come to the platform of religion. They do not act under fear. They do not act because they are fearful. They are engaging in activities due to hope, because they realize that they have come into this material world as a result of delusionment, of desire to lord it over material nature. So they engage in their activities with the hope that when they leave this world, they will go back to God. Some of them think about God abode as the heavens or whatever conception they have. But this class of people, they engage in pious activities. They give donations to the temple. They render some kind of pious activities. And this class of persons, when they become perfected in their religious activities, when they become matured, then they can rise. They move ahead of religiosity, of hope. Then they come to the transcendental platform of a bhakta. And that is the position of a devotee. A devotee is not acting based on hope for anything, neither does he act out of fear of anything. The devotee is acting out of love for Krishna, and because he loves Krishna, he experiences bliss of loving Krishna. So only a devotee acts, only a devotee is come to that platform of transcendence. And that is why Lord Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita that one who actually develops love of God, he experiences a life of blissfulness. So this is the general symptoms of living entities in this material world. Those who are grossly materialistic persons, they engage in activities out of fear. But when they go beyond that, they become religious, become hopeful. But devotees go beyond that level of hopefulness of anything. They just wanted to love Krishna. And when we see the activities of Mayadaya Soda, the gopis of Vrindavan, they do not hope for anything. They're not looking out for anything. And Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms that in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. So therefore, devotees of the Lord, they transcend this level of fear and hope of existence in the material world. And that is where Narada Muni is trying to take us to in this text that he's talking about. Prabhupada emphasizes on the impersonalism, but we'll get to that point in a short while. But then before we go to that point, this illusion, why is it that the living entity, just because he desires, why does he have to become illusioned? Why does he have to? In the 6th canto of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, 1st chapter, text number 46, there's a nice story there, and the particular verse is giving us a very insight into this. Prabhupada said in the purport of that verse that the illusion of the living entities is this characteristics of fearfulness and hopefulness in religious life is as a result. They cannot come to the transcendental platform of a bhakta as a result of the three gunas or the three modes of material nature. 6th canto, chapter 1, text number 46. And that verse says that what? That yate are deva pravas try vidyam ugula baite biteshu guna visistriya tatayata no niyate. That the text of that verse is that all best of the demigods, we can see three different varieties of life which are due to the contamination of the three modes of material nature. The living entities are thus known as peaceful, restless, and foolish, as happy, unhappy, or in between, or as religious, irreligious, and semi-religious. That is in the purport. Purport is explaining this. That so as we're explaining, these living entities are all characterized. When you go down to the purport, you see where I'm trying to. Yeah, just there. Go up a little bit. Yeah. Let's see the text. Yeah. Oh, best of the demigods, we can see three different varieties of life, which are due to the contamination of the three modes of material nature. The living entities are thus known as peaceful, restless, and foolish, as happy, unhappy, or in between, or as religious, irreligious, and semi-religious. We can deduce that in their next life, we can deduce that in the next life, these three kinds of material nature will similarly act. So the point I'm using there is we can deduce that in their next life, these three kinds of living entities. So in other words, living entities in this material world are taking birth in this existence as a result, because of this influence of the three modes of material nature. So they are engaging in they either engage in these fearful activities. Prabhupada in the chapter 4 of Bhagavad Gita, text number 18, also emphasize that in another purport. Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text number 8, where Lord Krishna says, Karmani akarmaya, Karmani akarmaya pasya et ukramicha kumaya sabudinam manusyesu sayuktam Krishna karma krit Lord Krishna says that one who sees inaction in action and action in inaction is intelligent among men, and he is the transcendental, is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. When you go to the first paragraphs of that, when you go to the purport of that text, down to the text, Prabhupada is giving excuses. Now, Prabhupada is talking about the impersonalist. Yes, stop there, stop there. So the impersonalist ceases fruitive activity out of fear, so that the resultant action may not be the stumbling block in the path of their self-realization. So just like the ordinary conditions so that this described earlier, they are out of fear, they are engaging in all kinds of activities in the material existence, and they are complicating their life the more. The religious people, they are trying to purify their activities, but they end up still getting entangled in the cycle of karma, because by dint of pious activities, they have to take back again and again. In other words, they failed to defeat the four real problems of human life, of old age, birth, disease, and death. But devotees of the Lord transcend this. Why? Because they do not act of fear. They are beyond the fear of material existence. A devotee is freely acting, engaging in all activities. Why? Because he can understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So Prabhupada is talking here. When we look at the purport of today's verse, Prabhupada focuses on that point only. Prabhupada was explaining that it right from the beginning of the purport. Prabhupada is explaining that the Lord has declared very clearly that the impersonalist who gives more importance to the transcendental rays of the Lord as Brahma Jyoti, and who concludes that the absolute truth is ultimately impersonal and only manifests a form of a time of necessity. So Prabhupada emphasizes on this because when we look at the impersonalists, they are all acting only on one basis, because of the fear, because they are in ignorance. And this is what Narada Muni is trying to take us away from. An intelligent person, a devotee, does not act out of foolishness, because he acts in knowledge. So he engages in loving devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. When in several verses in the Bhagavad Gita, Lord Krishna says, "Bahunam Jamanam ante genava mampa pradyante Vasudeva Sabhamiti Sava Mahatma Sudalaba." When one knows me, he surrenders unto me in loving devotional service. Lord Brahma says, "Preman Jana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena," in SRIMAD Brahma Samhita 538, that the pure devotees of the they are seeing the Lord. And because they are seeing the Lord, their activities is completely transcendental. They are not captured, they are not caught up in the activities of the impersonalists. Because sometimes when we come into devotional service, it becomes difficult to distinguish activities of personalist activities from impersonalists, because we see that even sometimes, even in devotional service, devotees become so impersonal in their activities. Why? Because they lack in knowledge, because they still operate under the fear. But one who is intelligent, one who is knowledgeable, like Narada Muni is exhibiting here, he's not acting. What he does is that what? It takes the right course. What is that right course? It tries to clarify the delusionment that is the symptoms of the living entities that brings the living entity into this material world. And this is the whole essence of our gathering here in SRIMAD Bhagavatam, that one should make inquiries by engaging in the process of devotional service. Narada Muni is doing that by asking questions from the Supreme Personality, from the Brahma, because Narada Muni carefully studied, and based on his, of course, we know the personality of Narada Muni, not just an ordinary, but it's giving us a guide. It's giving us a path to follow, to become free from the delusionment. Lord Krishna emphasized this in the Bhagavad Gita, how to follow the step of Brahma and Narada Muni in this, as we are reading in this cosmic manifestation. The whole of the cosmic manifestation is so huge that for a conditioned soul, it is difficult to understand. But the path to understand this is what Narada Muni is setting for us, that for one to be able to answer, one has to ask questions. and ask the right question from the right kind of persons. And Lord Krishna says that by such endeavor, by just activities like that of Narada Muni, one becomes purified. And in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 14, text number 26, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, emphasizing this process. That one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material natures and thus comes to the level of Brahman. He realizes the truth. So therefore, understanding that one is in, thank you very much, Prabhuji. Yes, one who engages in full devotional service, unfailing in all circumstances, at once transcends the modes of material nature and thus comes to the level of Brahman. And in the purport, Prabhupada emphasized, this verse is a reply to Arjuna's third question. What is the means of attaining to the transcendental position to come out of that quagmire, that cycle of conditional life, where one engages in activities out of fear and hope for better situation? The materialistic persons are open like that. Yesterday, somebody was asking me, he says, sir, I know you are a very religious man, and then we look up to you people. Please tell me, I'm thinking that this present government is going to be better than the other government that we just passed. You know, Buhari government. Everyone knows that in Nigeria, we are based. We just have a new government, whether legitimate or illegitimate, as the people say. But the fact is that there's a new government. And this is the nature of the conditioned soul. They're always exploring, acting in fear or hoping for the best in ignorance. So this young man was asking me, he said, I'm thinking that this new government is going to do us better. I said, so comparing your situation in the previous government and now, have you got a better situation? He said, yes, it just came now, it's just 2 months. I said, the same thing you said in 2015, that, oh, say, Baba, Buhari is going to come. Everyone was saying, oh, he's just coming, let's give him a time. And give him a time, 8 years has passed. And now another one's come. He said, you are saying, give him a time again. There's never a time the material nature is going to be favorable to any conditioned soul in this material world. It is not going to get better because according to the Vedic understanding, we understand that this universe itself goes through a cyclic rotation of 4 cycles, from Satya Yuga to Treta to Dwapara to Kali. And as the ages grows, things will get completely confusing, deteriorating, and all kinds of manners of situations will be there. So an intelligent person, it takes shelter, like Narada Muni is doing, of a great personalities. He has seen the qualities of a great personality in his father. And out of his naivety, he was thinking this person is the supreme person. He has all the power. He has all of the, in fact, everything is created by him. But he didn't just assume, which is what most of us do. Narada Muni is teaching us. He approaches Brahma. Say, my dear father, my teacher, please tell me. And here, because he is listening, he is able to get the right course of knowledge. That is the key into this. And Lord Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, emphasizing the power, the potency of hearing knowledge, how cultivating the process of knowledge by regular attendance in SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, hearing from the same person becomes a wonderful means. And not just that it is for today. It's a tested, proven path. In the Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text number 10, Lord Krishna told Arjuna that Vita Raga Baya Kruda, Ma Maya Ma Upasrita, Bahayo Gyana Tapasa, Putamad, Bhavan Agata. Lord Krishna is telling Arjuna in that verse that being freed from attachment, fear, and anger, being fully absorbed in me and taking refuge in me, many persons in the past became purified by knowledge of me, and thus they all attain transcendental love for me. Thank you very much, Prabhu. being freed from attachment, fear, and anger. The only way one can become free from the delusionment of conditional life is for one to do what? To take to this part of Sravana, Kirtana, hearing. And that is why Sukadev Goswami mentioned in the earlier part of the Bhagavatam, Master applies you by regular attendance to these classes, hearing this SRIMAD Bhagavatam. And Lord Krishna is confirming in this text, 4:10, that people in the past have done this. They have become purified. They have attained transcendental activities. And their result is what? Love of God. They rise above the materialistic gross life of a conditional living entity in the material world, where they engage in all kind of activities out of fear. They transcend themselves beyond the religious pious life of a religious person who is hoping for some better situation. It is out of hope that Western religions makes people believe that when you go to heaven, there are people who die just to go to heaven. In fact, some people commit abominable fanatical extremism in the name of religion, with the hope that when they go to some place within the material cosmic manifestation, they will become a better place for them to enjoy. But that is not ever going to happen. The living entity is not going to be better off until it gets to the platform of loving devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Only when one is situated on the boat of bhakti, loving devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, only at that point can someone experience real bliss. And that is what part Narada Muni is toiling here, which is showing us as sadakas. For Narada Muni, there is no wanting of knowledge. There is no doubt about the person of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But the Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, enacts these pastimes, engaging his devotees, sometimes directly himself, as he spoke in the Bhagavad Gita, or in the narration of Srimad Bhagavatam, of his activities through his transcendental devotees, just to teach us this essence. So this Srimad Bhagavatam, Katha, hearing and speaking, is the most auspicious activities in the human life. So Narada Muni is showing us the path, and the impersonalists of all kinds of transcendentalists, the impersonalists are higher, but higher than them is one who has come to the personalist realization, who has come to realize that Krishna is true Bhagavan Swayam, that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is the path, that is the journey where Narada Muni is going to be ending to here in the text we're seeing here. And that is what happened to anyone who constantly, regularly hear Bhagavatam. And that is manifested in the statement of Parikshit Maharaj, the hero of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Parikshit Maharaj, after hearing, Narada Muni is exemplifying here, but the whole of the story of Srimad Bhagavatam, when we look at it from the beginning, Maharaj Parikshit, it demonstrated the efficacy, the potency of hearing. And what did he say? In the 10th canto, after hearing the whole of the first 9 cantos of the Srimad Bhagavatam, in the 10th canto, chapter 14, text number 29, he says that, my Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, he can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many, many years. In other words, this verse is telling us that it requires the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead through his devotees. Thank you very much. Deva Undabud. Yeah, you can go to the translation. Yes. Let's go to the translation. Yeah. So, my Lord, if one is favored by even a slight trace of the mercy of your lotus feet, you can understand the greatness of your personality. But those who speculate to understand the Supreme Personality of Godhead are unable to know you, even though they continue to study the Vedas for many, many years. So Narada Muni is showing us, and this is what Maharaj Parikshit realized after hearing, just like Narada Muni is hearing from Brahma, the authority, the 12 Mahajans, and Brahma is here as one of the Maharaj is speaking to Narada Muni. And when one hears sufficiently like this, it comes to this realization from the hearing of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. It comes to this transcendental platform. In the same 10th canto, chapter 1 of this 10th canto, would hear the statement of Maharaj Parikshit. 10th canto, chapter 1, text number 2. After hearing Maharaj Parikshit, he told Sukadev Goswami, my dear Sukadev Goswami, O best of the Muni, you have also described the descendants of the Yadus, who were very pious and strictly adherent in religious principles. Now, if you will, kindly describe the wonderful, glorious activities of Lord Vishnu or Krishna, who appear in that Yadu dynasty with Baladev, explaining expansions. In other words, when one has become purified by the potency of hearing SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, he developed the taste, like Maharaj Parikshit here is developing the taste. He developed the taste to hear more and more about the Lord. One is not able to hear the Lord. One is not able to attend this stream of BHAGAVATAM. One is not able to have affinity for this hearing of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, only when it's not purified. But it requires the mercy of the Lord and his devotees. And when he gets that, he develops this kind of affinity for hearing, like Maharaj Parikshit have had. So the whole of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, or this exercise, sometimes it looks as just an ordinary exercise that we do on a routine basis. But this is the essence of human life. If one wants to transcend the conditional situation of material existence and come to the transcendental platform, beyond the struggle of religiosity and materialistic karmic cycle of repeated birth and death, one has to give attention to the constant hearing of these narrations of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. This is what Narada Muni is teaching by this approach. And then Brahma, the father of who is a supreme authority in this universe, is telling Narada Muni that you Narada, your confusion, your delusion that I am the supreme, I am the creator of I'm the source of everything, is wrong. It is only as a result of, due to the three influence of the three modes of material nature, is why you see me as the supreme. In other words, for one to understand the supreme personality of Godhead, one has to become free from the delusion of the material modes of material nature. And no one can become free from that unless one takes shelter of the supreme personality of Godhead. Lord Krishna, like one of our devotees asked in the previous class, that how can we then approach the Supreme Lord? The Lord is not physically present here, but the Lord is here. He has appeared in this age of Kali in the form of SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM. The Bible, Lord Krishna told Arjuna, Devi, he said, Mama Maya Durati, Mamivaye Papa Gente, Ayamitam, Taranti, 719, that these three modes of material nature, which is covering the living entities in different forms, in different colors, it will never go away. No matter how one struggle, no matter how one tries, no matter how one endeavors, unless unless one surrender to the supreme personality of Godhead. And no one can get the shelter of the supreme personality of Godhead unless one approach the devotee of the Lord, like Lord Brahma, like Narada Muni has shown. Lord Brahma was approached by Narada Muni because what? Brahma is an authority, and because he approached a bona fide authority like Brahma, he was able to realize at the end the transcendental nature of the supreme personality of Godhead. His illusion was removed, and he was able to understand. When we go on in this section of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM of this particular chapter, Cosmic Manifestation, we will see how the emphasis is laid on getting out of the confine, out of the quagmire, out of the coverings of the threefold modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. And when one is able to come to that platform, it will attain what Lord Krishna said in the Bhagavad Gita, 1854, where Lord Krishna says that Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, na sushati na kamshati, sama saveshu bhukteshu, mabhaktim, labate param, that when one becomes transcendentally situated, when one, after hearing SRIMAD Bhagavatam consistently, after so many lifetimes, after so many existence, after so many endeavor, when one becomes fortunate, he becomes purified. Na sushati na kamshati, you will become free from that conditional life of fearfulness, engaging in all manners of fearful and activities just to save himself. Anchoring and lamentation. It comes to the transcendental platform. On the transcendental platform, yes, thank you very much for that. Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma na sushati kamshati. And when you go to the purport of that verse, go down. There's one sentence there. I think it's towards the Prabhupada. Let's start from the beginning. Prabhupada started the same thing as he said in the purport of the verse we are reading today, that the highest form of materialistic manifestation is when one gets to the platform of impersonalism. And that's why when we talk about the three modes of material nature, one is not considered to have become free until he rises above impersonalism. And so that's when we talk about three modes of material nature, one may think himself as being transcendent, but one cannot be considered or cleared of being above the three modes of material nature if he has not rise above impersonalism. So whenever the three modes of material nature is mentioned, also in chapter 14, Prabhupada will mention, and as he mentioned here, the impersonalist achieving the Brahma Bhuta stage, becoming one with the absolute, is the last word. But for the personalist or pure devotee, one has to go still further to become engaged in pure devotional service. Just like we explained before, the gross materialistic persons, they're speculatively engaging in all kinds of activities, as we read in that purport we shared before. Out of fear, the impersonalist, they seize all kinds of activities. A gross materialistic person, he engages in all kinds of activities for the same purpose, out of fear. But when one rises above this fear, it becomes pious. When it becomes pious, what does he do? He engages in pious activities. He starts engaging in religious activities. And when one even goes beyond that, it comes to this transcendental platform. So can you go up small? I think the last paragraph, the last two sentences or something like that, Papa says something very beautiful. And I think we'll run over. Yes, stop there. Thank you very much. The world is miserable for the material infected person, but for a devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha or the spiritual sky. The highest personality in this material universe is no more significant than an ant for a devotee. Such a state can be achieved by the mercy of the Lord Chaitanya, who preach pure devotional service in this age. This is the conclusion. The material world is miserable, but for a devotee, he rises above the conditioning of fear and hope for better situation. He engages in loving service to the Supreme Personality of God, and he experiences blissfulness. And in that blissfulness, even the most hellish environment, like this material God, becomes a Vaikuntha for a devotee of the Lord. So I summarize on this note. So we started by explaining that the living entities in this material world are born into delusion. And this delusion is not imaginary, it is a reality. And why do we get born into delusion and desire, of this desire? As a result that the moment we want to experience, the moment we try to experience joy, or we want to enjoy, in that verse that we quoted 429, SRIMAD Bhagavatam 429:4, when the living entity wants to enjoy the most of material nature in their totality, then it takes this material body of conditional life. And when it takes this conditional life, it operates under the umbrella of fear and hope. If he is pious, if he's religious, he engages in hoping for the better in the material world. So he's engaging in pious activities, hoping that he will get a better situation. But there's nothing going to be better. But if he's not, then he engages in fear. But the devotee transcend that, comes to the platform of loving relationship, service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, then he experienced blissfulness. So we also explain that these three modes of material nature is the real cause of the whole of the miseries of the living entities. And that illusion can be overcome when one takes to the path of devotional service. And Lord Krishna confirms in 410 that this delusion is not, this solution is not an unproven solution. It is tested. The great sages in the past, they have taken that path. And when they have they took that path, they attained the ultimate point of love of Godhead. And because they attain love of Godhead, whoever takes that path also will find himself at the ocean of love of Godhead. And then we rounded it up nicely, explaining that to come to this transcendental platform, one has to give, please, oral reception like Narada Muni did, just like Maharaj Parishik did. And when they did this, the ultimate end was that they experienced loving relation, they developed love of God. And when one comes to the love of God, material world becomes even a Vaikuntha for such a person. And even while in this material world, he experiences bliss where everybody is lamenting and anchoring. So I'll stop here. If there are questions or comments or contributions, thank you very much for listening. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. It's great, Salika Prabhu. It's beautiful. Lots of references to highlight what you were trying to bring across, and I believe devotees have enjoyed it beautifully. If anyone has questions, comment, please, you may indicate by using the hand emoji or your physical hand, and you'll be asked to unmute to speak. Yes. Prabhuji, if I may put the verse we discussed today on the screen. So this is Lord Brahma speaking. Or Brahmin Narada. The superseer, the transcendent Lord, is beyond the perception of the material senses of the living entities because of the above mentioned three modes of nature. But he is the controller of everyone, including me. So my question is from this particular statement made by Lord Brahma to Narada Muni, that the Supreme Lord, Shri Krishna, is beyond the perception of the material senses. And he gives the reason why the material senses cannot approach the Lord. And the material senses cannot approach the Lord because of the three modes of material nature.
Yeah.
And my question is, since all of us are being controlled by these three modes of material nature, how then do we use these senses to approach the Lord who cannot be approached by material senses? How do we do that as we are trying to approach and understand and serve the Lord using these same material senses, that which cannot be used to approach the Lord? How then do we approach the Lord to serve him? Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for this beautiful question. I love the question. Shilarupa Goswami, who is Prabhupada said, we are Rupanugas. And this is part of what Narada Muni is teaching us here, that we have to follow in the footsteps of the previous acharyas. There is nothing that is to be learned new. And that is what the Bhagavad Gita chapter 4, text number 10 is telling us, that there is nothing new. Whatever we are going through now has been experienced, and there has been a solution. Rishikesha, Rishikena, by engaging the senses in the service of the master of the senses. The challenge is that the Lord has created this material world for his enjoyment. Every of his manifestation of the Lord is created by the Lord for his enjoyment. Our foolishness is that we are asking the Lord, come and help us to enjoy what you have created for your own enjoyment. In other words, we are asking the Lord that instead of the Lord enjoying his opulence, just like in our material life, a rich man has built a very nice palatial house, and the gate man says, "Oh, my master, you have built a very nice house for your enjoyment, but please go out. Give me the permission to enjoy everything for you." Immediately, the landlord will know what next will act to that person. So these senses, all of the human senses, all of the Krishna's manifestation are meant for only one purpose, for the pleasure of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is the old essence of the Isavasya verse, that whatever is owned and created by the Lord is meant for the Lord's enjoyment. There is nothing that is that is outside of Isavasya idam sarvat yat kinsha jagatya jagat tenatak tenan bunjita magrida kasya swidana, that everything animate or inanimate that is within the universe is controlled and owned by the Lord. That is the first realization a sensible person must develop. Then one should therefore accept only those things necessary for himself. In other words, the Lord is not a crude, wicked master who does not see the welfare of the living entity, but the Lord has created everything. So the Isavasya verse says that one should set aside, know what is set aside is quota, and one should not accept other things, knowing where to whom it belongs. So the senses are meant to assist us in our service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But when we try to use the senses for the purpose of enjoying for our senses, then it becomes a problem. But that same senses, when they are engaged in the service of the owner of the senses, in other words, when the tire is manufactured by the manufacturer of a vehicle, it is meant to be tied to the leg, to the base of the vehicle, so that it can run the vehicle very nicely. But if someone buys the vehicle and they said, okay, because this is my money, I've purchased this vehicle, just like we have purchased this body based on our desires. And he says, okay, because I purchased this vehicle, I will remove the tire and put it on top of the vehicle, and the vehicle will carry me to wherever I want to go. He will be frustrated. In the same way, the Lord has given all of these senses for it to serve us for the ultimate purpose of pleasing him. But when we try to use the senses for our own purpose, for our own self-enjoyment, then we get complicated and we suffer. So there is, the question is, these same senses that entangle us, how does that same senses free us? It is by appropriating the senses to the right use. Just like another example given, that when the manufacturers of mobile phone manufactured it, they did not manufacture them for the purpose of typing and writing a book. But if somebody condemns the mobile phone for not giving the facility to be able to type a book easily, then he is actually confused. So when we do not use what is given by the Lord for the purpose, in other words, the senses are given by the Lord for ultimate engagement in the service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that is why Rupa Goswami, back to where I started, Rishikena, in the Nectar of Devotion, where is that verse? Let me see if I can bring that verse out. when we engage the senses in the service of the just a minute. I'm trying to. It's nectar of devotion. Just a minute.
Well, probably while you're looking for the text or whatever, I'm somehow following what you're saying. Excuse me, but
yeah,
what Lord Brahma is saying, it's quite interesting. Well, you go ahead. You go ahead.
Yeah, I'm trying to remember that verse. It's nectar of devotion. Why is it difficult? Just a second. But I think the summary of what I'm trying to say is that the senses are meant for the pleasure of the Lord. And when they are used for the purpose for which they are made, and it's a verse I quote oftenly. I don't know why. I forget the exact place now.
Anyway, probably I don't think
I'll find it because of the discussion. You can go ahead.
Yeah, I don't think you.
But I'm sure you understand my point.
Yes, I do. I do.
But
the only thing I was trying to find out is, since I'm sort of understanding what you're saying, therefore I would have hoped to hear Lord Brahma say to Narada that this Supreme Lord cannot be touched by these senses because of the material modes of nature. But in other words, even though it cannot be used, but there is a process of using the same senses to approaching him. But I kind of follow what you're saying. So we go to Dr. Hassan. Please, you may unmute. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, your grace. This affect my humble respect of excellencies. All glory to Gurudev, all glory to the Prabhupada, and all glory to all the family devotees. To grace Sarita Prabhu, thank you for this wonderful class. My question is, you are saying that all this material creation is for Krishna's enjoyment. And I heard that this material creation, this earth, is like a prison for living entities. So if you say it's for Krishna enjoyment, because for little that I know, the heavens and the paradise, Vayakunta, is more enjoyable than here. So if this material creation is for Krishna's enjoyment, can you be specific about that? What exactly is the enjoyment of Krishna here? Because I'm kind of a bit confused. Hare Krishna.
okay, the question is, yeah, I think I got the verse that I'm looking for, but let me answer your question first. The question is, if this place is for Krishna's enjoyment, maybe you come back with it. I was distracted by the. Let me repeat your question. Sorry.
What I'm trying to say is that.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
If this material creation is for Krishna's enjoyment, and what in the heavens, which is more enjoyable than here, because here all we see is sufferness and struggle, and even Maya Shakti is so powerful, which is very, very difficult for even for us to do our devotional service. And I also heard that this material creation is like a prison because we are going through cycle of life and death. So my question is, what exactly is enjoyment for Krishna here in this material world? PRABHU.
Thank you very much. Very beautiful question. Yeah, I wanted to be sure I got it correctly, or even though I tried to adjust. Question is like a follow-up to Sadi Prabhu's question. What is beautiful here? Om punam ada punam 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 budasyate punam punam adaya punam ivava sisyate. The material world is perfect and complete. Every aspect of creation of Krishna is perfect. The imperfection that we see, that we experience, is as a result of our conditioning. Just like a man that has glaucoma in his eyes sees the bright day as dark. Although the sky is bright, the weather is very bright, but because he has glaucoma in his disease, he is seeing it as dark or night. In the same way, the conditioned living entity, the moment we come into the material mode under the influence of the three modes of material nature, just like the energy is covered with a white bulb or red bulb, a yellow bulb, and it becomes yellow light, blue light, green light. In the same way, the living entity starts seeing bad, good, evil, righteous, unrighteous, only as a result of the influence of the three modes of material nature. Otherwise, there is nothing imperfect in the creation of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And every manifestation of Krishna is emanating from Krishna. And there cannot be imperfection from the all-perfected personality. So that imperfection that we're seeing, this ugliness of this material world that we're seeing, is as a result of our conditional state. And that is why a pure devotee of the Lord, when one comes to the transcendental platform of a Mahabhagavad, even in this material world, he does not see anybody as a sinful person or anything as bad. He sees everything as auspicious because it's no longer seen on that level that we see. When I traveled to India just of recent, I was so ecstatic, eager. I wanted to go to Yamuna to have some dip and get some purification. So, you know, if someone who has been going to India of recent, you will realize that the Yamuna is no longer the Yamuna that we read directly from the scriptures. There are so many so-called negative things or ugly things that you see. And there is a particular place, the Naga Babas and those people that stay around that place, they normally go there to stool every morning. So everybody that stays around Vrindavan knows that particular spot as a place of very ugly, and then nobody goes there. So when they want to take a dip or touch Jamuna water or take Jamuna water, they go to a different location. But I was coming because I was not thinking in my own conditional state, despite the fact that I'm not that transcendentally situated, but because in my consciousness, all I was seeing is Yamuna. So I went straight to that place. As we got to the place, I just rushed to that place. I carried the water and poured my head and started pouring in my mouth. And the devotee that was following me said, "Oh my God, hey, Salika, what have you done? You have, oh, that place is stool. There is stool there. Oh my God, what have you done?" I was just looking at Yamuna. I didn't know. He said, "No, that place, nobody goes there. They are students there. If you want to touch Yamuna, I know you are very eager. Just go to that other side. That is where I'm taking you there. Why are you so eager? You have just followed me." That is a conditioned soul. Salika that I'm talking about. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is that our perception of ugliness, conditionalities, and all of this is based off the level of our consciousness. It is our consciousness that reflects what we see. We see all of the ugliness as a result of our ugly consciousness. So as our consciousness becomes purified, we start seeing things on the transcendental platform. I hope that helps.
Well, Hare Krishna.
Yes, Haribo. So, based on your answer, so it might be possible that this earth can be like a heaven, but it is hidden from us because of our state of nature.
That is what Prabhupada said in the last verse that we quoted, Bhagavad Gita chapter 18, text number 54, the last paragraph of the purport. And Sadif, can you bring that up again? Thank you. The world is miserable for the materialistic infected person, but for a devotee, the entire world is as good as Vaikuntha or the spiritual sky.
Thank you so much. I'm very clear now. Thank you so much for wonderful.
Thank you.
Haribo.
Haribo.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Well, this is what Srila Prabhupada is saying. It's as good as Vaikuntha. But whenever we say this cassava is as sweet as yam, means that the yam is much sweeter. The yam is the origin. And so even though I'm not yet a devotee, so I'm seeing differences, but based on what Srila Prabhupada is saying, still remains that the Vaikuntha is far superior to this earth or material planet. But we'll go to Sri Harichakra Prabhu. Please unmute Harichakra Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yeah, thank you very much, Salika Prabhu. Thank you for your class. My question goes back to the question Sahadev Prabhu asked. Sahadev Prabhu, so can you read the exact portion that you read to ask your question?
Oh, it was the text itself.
Yeah.
Okay, let me put it up here. This is Lord Brahma speaking to his son Radhamuni. That one, oh no, it's the wrong. I put it the wrong one. Okay, it says, "Oh Brahmin Narada, the superseer, the transcendent Lord, is beyond the perception of the material senses of the living entities because of the above mentioned three modes of nature. But he is the controller of everyone, including me." So
yeah.
my question was, since the material senses cannot touch the Lord, and we are trying to touch the Lord using these same material senses. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, that is the question I want to ask. My question is, Krishna himself has said that not even a blade of grass can move without my sanction. So, and we know that before Krishna will even help us on the path of coming to him, we have to take the initiative. It's not that we are there and then Krishna will just push and say, go and serve me, or go and forget about me. We, the living entities, will have to first take the initiative, and then the help of Krishna follows. Whether we want to come to him or we want to forget him, whichever way we want to go, Krishna will help us on that path. But the original initiative should come from us. Now, as we are here now, our senses are imperfect. Definitely, we are working through these very senses. And now today, Lord Brahma is saying that these senses can never approach Krishna, right? So if that is the case, then where do we stand? Because the initial desire, the initial desire should come from us. And that desire works through our senses, whether we, like if I want to go to the Hare Krishna temple, my initial desire I should have that initial desire. Oh, now I want to serve Krishna. Let me go look for him at the Hare Krishna temple. Once I entertain that desire, the help comes. But that desire will have to come through this, my physical senses, which is already in the position not to even be able to approach Krishna. So where do we stand?
Thank you very much, Prabhuji. The same question that Sadif asked is what I think you are still asking. And then the answer is given in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Like I said before, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu 1:1-12 is that verse. And it says that Sarvopadi Vinimukta Parat Malam Rishkesha Rishkesh Rishikena Rishikesha Sevana Bhakti Uchyate. Bhakti or devotional service means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of God, and the Master of all the senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, let me put that across. Let me put that verse up so that we can all see it. So this is the verse. It says that Bhakti means engaging all our senses in the service of the Lord, the Supreme Personality of God, and the Master of all our senses. When the spirit soul renders service unto the Supreme, there are two side effects. One is freed from all material designation. One's senses are purified simply by being employed in the service of the Supreme Personality of God. So the question is that our senses, material senses, but when the moment you add material to the senses are in themselves are not the problem. But the senses that is already covered by the influence of the three modes of material nature becomes material senses. Just as we have our material senses, we have our spiritual senses. The senses are spiritualized when they are engaged in the service of the Supreme. And that's what I was trying to explain, that when the senses are engaged in the service of the Master of the senses, and I give an analogy of the car and the tire. The tire by manufacturer's arrangement is meant to be under the vehicle to roll it forward. But if one thinks that, okay, the senses, just like the tire, is my property, I'll put it on top of the vehicle and I'll move. It will be frustrated. So, therefore, the same senses, the senses in themselves are not the problem. The problem is the senses that is materialized, that has become materialized based on the influence of the threefold modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. When the senses are engaged in this service of this, they become spiritual. The material senses are one of the energies of Krishna. Krishna has three energies: the internal, external, and the marginal energy. We are marginal energy. The senses are external energy. They are part of Krishna's energy. And those energies are meant to serve the Supreme Lord, Krishna. So when that senses are employed in the service of the marginal energy, they become contaminated. So the senses are not the challenge. The challenge is the senses that is already covered by the influence of the three modes of material nature. I hope that explains the point.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for the response.
Yeah,
Rasalila has a question.
Ask a question, and I think it's the same line of question. You can read it out.
All right, so let me read it. I had asked her to unmute, but I don't know if she still cannot unmute. We would have loved to hear her sweet voice also.
Yeah.
But well, let me read what she's asking. Hare Krishna Prabhu, thank you so much for the wonderful lecture. I think it's an innate nature to hope for the best in difficult situations. We see how the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM is full of pastimes where devotees offered prayers during challenging times. His Holiness Bhaktivedanta Swami Maharaj said, to Krishna lies the senses. So my question is, how can we practice being hopeful in a hopeless situation, but in a way that deepens our surrender to the Lord? Thank you, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Mother Rasla, for that beautiful question. Yeah, the two part to the answer to the question you've asked is, one part of it has been answered, that the way we can deepen as Krishnanize our senses, just as Gurudev has said in an impactful way, to take us from hopelessness to hopefulness, is when we engage the senses in the service of the Lord. But it is important to note this, that cannot happen unless one comes to the point of self-realization. And that is why the whole of the spiritual knowledge started from the day he knows me yatadi hey. Lord Krishna will have told Arjuna that engage yourself in my service by fighting Bhishma Dev, by fighting KRSNA and all of the warriors. Krishna will have told Arjuna, just like we are saying that once you engage the senses in the service of the Lord, it is easier said than done. But for one to be able to do that, one has to come to the platform of self-realization. One has to understand, I'm Brahmasmi, I'm not this body. And that is where the challenges comes in. So how we can, the question is, how can we practice this being hopeful? Is that we should take what the acharyas have given. And what have they given? That, and which is where I focus this class on, what Narada Muni did. We should ask questions. What is that questioning? That we should hear that which is the cause. Just like Prabhupada would give an example, a perfect example. He said a man who is affected by jaundice, the symptoms is that he cannot taste sweetness with his tongue. But that symptom, when he starts eating sweet things, after some times, the jaundice is removed and it start tasting. So in the same way, the senses, which is the cause of our problem, it's also the cause, it's also the source of our freedom. But for us to be able to understand that, we have to understand our position. We have to come to our real position. What is our position? Aham Brahmasmi, I'm part and parcel of Krishna. It's a Upanishad verse. It is to come to that realization that we are part. Until we come to that realization that we are part, so how we can actually deepen our realization to come to the platform of developing hopefulness from hopelessness is to engage the senses. But that conviction, that determination, that dedication, that focus on engaging the senses in the service of the master of the senses by chanting, hearing, talking, like Maharaj Amparish did, will only come when we rise to the platform of self-realization. But the interesting thing is that to come to the platform of that self-realization, it is still the same thing that we will do when we get to that point, just like we quoted Maharaj Parishit. Maharaj Parishit, from the beginning of the SRIMAD BHAGAVATAM, what he did was hear Bhagavad Katha. He had the narration of the pure devotees and himself expressed it. After hearing about Krishna, he became purified. And when he became purified, he came to the transcendental platform and he wants to hear more about Krishna. So the problem is not hearing Krishna. The solution is hearing Krishna. But in our conditioned state, we cannot hear Krishna. And the solution to hearing Krishna is to hear Krishna. That is the beauty of Bhakti. There is no other solution. Bhakti is the cure, or Bhakti is the is the key to getting bhakti. There is no other means. So we have to engage the senses in the service of the master of the senses, then we can become realized. So in summary, your question again is, how can we practice being hopeful? How we can practice being hopeful is to take the words of the acharyas to act by hearing. That is why before the reading of the Bhagavatam, we quote those two verses. Nasta aprayesu abadresu. Nityam Bhagavatam sevaya. Bhagavati utamanslo bhagavati ashtiki. That by regularly hearing this SRIMAD Bhagavatam in the association of devotees as we're doing, all that is unwanted to the heart is removed. And when that is removed, that loving devotional service will begin with the engagement of the senses. So our hope is in the hearing. The goal is the hearing. Our challenge is not hearing. And that is the beauty of Bhakti Yoga.
Hare Krishna, thank you so much. His Grace Hari Chakra, did you just raise your hand up or it's from previous? If you have something to ask, please, then you may go ahead. I think it was from the previous.
Yes, I think so.
Yeah. Anyone else with something to say? Otherwise, we'll bring this to a close. Thank you so much, SALIKA Prabhu, for such wonderful class given today. And on this note, we're going to humbly request all the devotees to kindly unmute, and we all chant Hare Krishna Maha Mantra to express our appreciation to our revered speaker, His Grace SALIKA Prabhu. Jai. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama,
Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Vancha kalpatarvishcha, kripa sindhubhya evacha, chitanam Jai. All glories to His Grace SALIKA Prabhu ki.
Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare